Welcome back to the live webinar series Sustainable Biosolutions 2020, organized by Veltech Rangarajan, Dr. Saguntala, R&D Institute of Science and Technology, and Biomol.in. The objective of this series is to expose students, professionals from industry and academia to the different aspects of sustainable biotechnology. So, we would like to begin with a short introduction about ourselves. Biomar.in is India's first and now one of the world's leading online portal for laboratory life science and diagnostic products. We have 1 lakh plus products from 150 plus brands across more than 100 categories. You can buy chemicals, microbiology products, diagnostic products, chromatography, lab equipments, lab consumables, all sort of reagents and kits. And also, we have one dedicated page for Corona Essentials, wherein you can find all the protective equipment, you can find the reagents and the kits that are used for diagnostics and research involved in coronavirus. Now, may I request Ms. Sai Nandini to introduce the Veltech University or the Veltech Institute of Science and Technology and take the session ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Viraj, and welcome to all. Railtech Chennai was established in 1997 by Dr. R. Rangarajan and Dr. Shakuntala Rangarajan. This institution is a private deemed to be university and is ranked number 5 in the country by MHRD for innovation and has a diamond rating from IGOG, 43rd among Asian universities in the Times Higher Education World Rankings. Our Department of Biotechnology aims to create and promote upskilled graduates with a professional attitude who are industry ready. Now, I would like to introduce the speaker of this session, Dr. Vasudevan, and former director at the renowned Center for Environmental Studies, Anna University. He has patented multiple technologies in environmental biotechnology, wastewater treatment, and successfully transferred multiple technologies to the industry. He is the recipient of several coveted awards such as 2017 TANSA Award, the Hyosho Think of Ecology Award, just to name a few. He is a regular consultant to the government on water quality and treatment task forces. Today, he will share insights into the biological treatment of wastewaters.
Okay, so I am happy to be a part of this program, and I just given the topic for the today's presentation as wastewater treatment, the opportunities and the biological strategies. Okay, so wastewater, in general, wastewater includes both domestic wastewater as well as industrial wastewater in a broader perspective. The domestic wastewater, as we talk about, we mean the black water as well as the gray water. Black water is a thing which is combined, all the wastewater what we generate, it's all combined at the household level. That is what black water. And the gray water is specifically the toilet water. If you segregate the toilet water, and rest will be the gray water. Actually, it includes the laundry water, kitchen water, kitchen wastewater, whatever that comes, and bath, etc. So these are all the things that combine the gray water. Industrial wastewater, so we have a variety of industries which use water in large scale. So that is what is being generated by the industry by the use of fresh water, that is the industrial wastewater. So example, tannery or textile we can say. So why I took this wastewater as a topic today, because the water is becoming a big demand now. It is a big important issue to talk about in the future, next decades, several decades. It will be the water's, water we are going to give more importance in the future to come. So the crisis, the water demand, what we are expecting in the future, in the near future. So due to scarcity of the water, of course, there is water as such is there, but it is not in usable form. So either it is contaminated by some means, by human activities, etc. So it is not available in pure form for the consumption. Plus, the water crisis also compounded by the drought. The drought, we don't get essential rains every year. The quota what is possible for the country, so it is reducing. And then the pollution of the water bodies, either groundwater or surface water bodies, standing water body or running water body, there is continuous pollution that is being, that is what we are witnessing. So there is a demand for water, which we are going to address in this. So it is not the crisis for India alone, it is a worldwide problem. So the same case in all over the globe. So I have some statistics here. We can see here from the slide, 844 million people lack access to clean water. That's what the UN figure says, data says. Over 2 billion people live in countries experiencing high water stress. I will show you what are the countries in water stress shortly. So 2 billion people live in water stress areas or the countries. And we see in 2040, approximately 600 million children are going to be there in a water stressed situation. That is, UNICEF is talking about this. And 700 million people worldwide could be displaced because there is no water. This is what going to happen, what we are going to witness in the next in 2030 and beyond also. Over half of the global population, approximately 4.2 billion people, lack safely managed sanitation services. So the sanitation is given more importance. That is the one of the prime cause for the contamination of water bodies. And then approximately 3 lakhs children die every year due to the disease called diarrhea. Diarrheal diseases, that is due to the fecal matter contamination. This is what is happening all over the globe. And the last is the important point, which I am going to concentrate more on today's topic, today's talk. 80% of the wastewater flows back into the ecosystem without being treated or reused. This is what? It is not properly treated or it is not reused. It's 80%, not only in India, in many other countries as well. Okay, same case. So this photograph, you can see here, the water stressed India, where it is placed. You can see the entire part of the southern India, the brown color. So it is highly water stressed area, the entire southern part of India. And the middle as well as the northern part, little bit slightly better, but it is still water stressed. It is high stress and then mid stress. That is what has been contemplated. That is the future. Okay, in India, what is the situation now? So you can see here, the crisis of our water is also to be faced in India. You can see the graph here. In 2050, you can see what was the situation in 1951-50, and now in 2050, in 100 years, the graph has come down. It is nearing the zero. So all the water resources, etc., everything is being polluted, and it is not usable by a common man. So and you can see the figure also, 541 million people there is no access for proper sanitation facility. And especially in urban area, 60% of the wastewater that is being discharged into the water bodies without treatment. I'm not saying this. This is the National Green Tribunal is talking about this. This is an Indian scenario. So this is a crisis for India, and in future, I think it is an alarm that is being rung now, and we need to look into this aspect very much. All of us, each and every citizen has to look into this aspect. I thought I should also talk about the present situation of COVID-19 crisis in India and abroad, all other states in other countries as well. So, what the amount of water you use in the normal situation, that is different, that we have been doing. But due to this sudden outbreak of coronavirus, this also put into a lot of stress on the water requirement. So how much water additionally we are going to use? That is going to be a burden for India. So it is an additional burden and additional water that we are going to use. So water we use every day to keep ourselves clean when we make a trip outside. So it is not only the washing the hand, but also the washing the legs. And even we are also told to wash the milk sachets what we get every day. And also all the essential commodities which is packed ones, etc. The possibility of the doubt, the error is there. The possibility of doubt is there, so we may have to look at washing with water. I just did some calculations. It is a conservative calculation only. If a person approximately uses 5 times hand washing per day, in a house of family of 4, approximately 600 liters for a family will be required per month at the rate of 1 liter per person per day. This is a conservative estimate only, so it will be even it can be double. So you can imagine what will be the requirement due to this coronavirus outbreak to keep ourselves in clean condition, our body and etc. So we may have to use additionally over the water or the thing what we use for our regular bath every day. So other things, resources what we try to expand is soap. That is the additional requirement. We are not going to use the soap just for taking bath, but it is going to be every now and then we are advised to wash our hands. And then the sodium hypochlorite solution. So this also requires a lot of water. Sodium hypochlorite is used only at 0.1% as recommended to kill the virus. So it requires large amount of water, which is used for sanitizing the surfaces, including roads, being sprayed with a lot of this solution that we have been witnessing every day. And then come to the sanitizers. Sanitizers mainly it can be alcohol, ethanol or isopropanol based, along with hydrogen peroxide. That is another consumption which we are going to use more than the requirement presently, what we have been doing. Then glycerin, turmeric powder being used, and then neem leaves in the villages, etc. Neem leaves are being practiced now. So the denudation of the trees, etc. Then citric acid, then sodium chloride, phenol, glycolic acid, and other ammonium compounds. These are all the things which will remove some amount of the resources what we are having additionally due to this coronavirus issue. Okay, I thought I should talk about that also, because a lot of water is required now for tackling this virus. Okay, now I come back to my main topic, that is on wastewater. Wastewater treatment. Now, if you take up the wastewater, I told you that I said domestic wastewater and industrial wastewater. So in general, we can categorize them into organic contaminants and inorganic contaminants. So among the organic contaminants, we can say petroleum and other components, which includes crude oil and the refined gasoline, etc. What we are routinely seeing in the what is being done in the petroleum industry refining operation. This also includes polyaromatic hydrocarbons, carbon dioxide that is being generated from the outlet chimneys, etc., and many other air pollution gases that also come out from the industrial sector. And another area is synthetic organics. So the synthetic organics, we can say halogenated hydrocarbons like polychlorinated biphenyls, CFCs, pesticides, solvents. Variety of pesticides are being used in the agricultural sector. chlorinated pesticide, carbamated pesticide, pyrethroid pesticides, and so on. Anything, varieties are being used as in required for tackling the insects, pest in the field. Then plasticizers. These are all some chemical compounds, etc., which has mainly the phthalates, phthalic acids, etc., as a main component. Even we find it in the PVCs, the pipelines what we use in the water sector, polyvinyl chloride. So it also has some plasticizer. And not only that, we also have this plasticizer in our bottles. Water bottles, we use the different varieties of water bottles that also has what is called as a plasticizer. This plasticizer is an important thing, component. It has an important component, that is phthalic acid. Then we have the newly talked about the micropollutants. This includes pharmaceutical ingredients or the residues what we are trying to eject out from our body. So that will be the component in the wastewater. And PFAS, this fluorinated compounds, which will also be there in the wastewater. So then we have other things like chemical surfactants and organophosphate pesticides, etc. So the variety of non-biodegradable as well as biodegradable components in the wastewater. And then we have the sewage sludge. Sewage sludge is arising out from the sewage treatment plant, but this also contains variety of heavy metals as well as pathogens in that. So this is another aspect. Then biological pathogens like bacteria, fungi, virus. There are 4 different categories, group of viruses, which is already there in the wastewater. We are not bothered about it. Of course, there is not hue and cry about it. But now coronavirus is also joining along with the other viruses and bacteria in the wastewater. So already in Chennai and other abroad in France, etc., they already have reported the presence of coronavirus in the domestic wastewater as well. So we have to see whether it is surviving or not. That is to be detected. Then we will know the story about how it can spread further. Coming to the inorganic contaminants, mainly the heavy metals. These heavy metals are the main thing which is being used by the industries. So there are cadmium, lead, mercury, zinc, copper, chromium, nickel from the batteries, etc. There is a variety of other metals as well, and several trace inorganic compounds as well, as which are called as nanoparticles. Now we are trying to give more importance to the nanotechnology. So this is going to be the another task to tackle the nanoparticles which is mixed up in the wastewater or the drinking water as well. Then you have the radionuclides. I think we have no access to such things, mainly from the atomic reactors, etc. We talk about this radionuclides as well as from ores which we find in the soil, etc. You may have some radioactive components there. And then we have the industrial waste, mainly the solids, red spoil, slags from variety of industries. And then nutrients, phosphate and nitrogen. These 2 nutrients are very important as far as the wastewater is concerned, mainly which they cause what is called as a eutrophication. So this is a small one picture which I thought of giving. You can see this is what one of my projects, what I have done, slightly away from the Chennai, it's nearby Mahabalipuram, that's a touristic area. So where they have a big water body here, and then you can see the sewage that is being loaded. It is untreated sewage being let into the water body. How it can contaminate the water body. So now this is okay, I think I clicked somewhere. It has gone. I think I put it back. Okay, coming back. Right. Okay, so this is industries. As far as the industries are concerned, they also contribute to the pollution. That is more toxic pollutants come from the industries. Like you have a paper mill industry, tannery industry, textile industries, and so on. They have toxic effluents which have to be treated. So they also generate a lot of wastewater, and now the government of India and the Pollution Control Board are talking about the zero discharge concept, and they are supposed to reuse back into the industry by treating their own wastewater. At least 80 to 90% is supposed to be treated, and then they have to treat and then use it in their industry. This is what is being contemplated, but how far they are doing that we have to see. So this is just an example that we can see the different industries, how much volume of water they use, oil refinery, petrochemical industries. These textile industries use a very large amount of water they require for their dyeing as well as bleaching process. And distillery industry also uses a very large amount for per liter of alcohol. They use several liters of water. And tanneries, etc. So distillery industry and as a red category industry. This is not an ordinary industry. It is called as a red category industry. So they have to manage the toxic wastewater, treat it, etc. So many of these pharmaceutical industry as well, tannery. So many of these industries they produce what is called as high TDS wastewater as well. So high TDS wastewater is another sector where there is a little amount of work has been done, but mostly they use. I will talk about this in a later section also. And then how this industry they are supposed to reuse. So and also the agricultural sector plays a major role in the use of water. As we know, India being an agriculture country basically. So we have the agriculture as a main livelihood. So we produce a lot of grains, etc. And the government also has provided free electricity. So the farmers try to pump enormous amount of groundwater if the stored rainwater is not available. So this is another thing which we have to talk about. And as you know, in 1 or 2 days ago, the government of India is also trying to bring in some changes now to keep a hold on the use of the electricity by the farmers. So so thermal power uses large amount of water. Our coal thermal stations are using large amount of water. Then iron and steel, paper production, textile industry, and then petrochemical industry. All they use large amount of water. They are supposed to reuse. The concept of reuse they are supposed to adapt. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so in this we can categorize them what is biodegradable and what is non-biodegradable, or I put it as a recalcitrant. So a little bit difficult to degrade. So industry produces wastewater which may contain biodegradable component or non-biodegradable component fully or partly. That we have to see. It varies different industry to industry. Then the biodegradable part can be a chemical, or it can be chemically it can be degraded, or biologically it can be degraded. But the recalcitrant ones, the one which will not be degraded by the biological means, are sometimes very difficult even by chemical means, or it is expensive. So as far as the chemical degradation, we can have a variety of catalysts, and then we can degrade the compound in pure form or in multiple mixed form. Biological way of degradation. So here in the biological method, here there are a variety of 4 main aspects can happen there. One is the total mineralization, that is complete biodegradation of the particular compound, as we normally see in the sewage. That is completely biodegradable because it contains all biodegradable components rich in BOD. Then there can be a partial degradation, or there can be accumulation sometimes. It may not be degraded, but it is getting like heavy metals can be a good example. Then polymerization can happen. A variety of chemicals can get polymerized and it is not further degraded, or it can go into the non-biodegradable state. So this is a simple way of explaining a biological treatment process in what is being followed in the industry. So generally, the wastewater that is taken in, whether it is a aerobic degradation treatment plant or anaerobic treatment plant, of course, slight variation is there. So this is mainly the aerobic treatment plant. So here you have the wastewater inflow, and the bacteria, fungi, and other protozoans, etc., may play a major role. And the oxygen is consumed, and the carbon dioxide release, and then water molecule also is being produced, since it is a aerobic degradation. And we get the more amount of biosolids, what is called as it is nothing but the biomass, bacterial biomass in large quantity that is being generated in the aerobic treatment system. Okay, then if it is completely degraded, as in the case of sewage, of course, sewage also it is not 100% degraded, 100% degraded in any treatment plant. Okay, it can reach only up to 80 to 90% or so. Okay, so the effluent what we get from the any wastewater that can be used depending upon the quality of the effluent and reused, or you can take it for improving the quality as the requirement as per the requirement of the industry or the concerned sector. This is what the normal process that is happening. Okay, as this is the aerobic treatment, what happens in this case? So here you can see here the organic contaminants and the oxygen is pumped inside in the aerators, etc. And actually nutrients are also provided, and the large amount of bacteria that is called as a heterotrophic population that will degrade the entire organics, what is biodegradable organics, which is BOD, large scale. So it will degrade. So we get carbon dioxide as water as a final product. This is what happens in all types of aerobic treatment systems. In case of anaerobic treatment system, we get carbon dioxide along with methane. So methane going to be the largest gas produced. Around 50 to 70% methane we can expect, depending upon the type of waste raw material what we are trying to digest in the anaerobic digester. So carbon dioxide will be always a lesser ingredient compared to the methane. So this will be another thing. And apart from this, there is also what is called as hydrogen sulfide. This hydrogen sulfide also will be there along with that, but it will be much less. So that also have to be sulfide component has to be looked into in the anaerobic treatment system. In general, we have this pollution control hierarchy. So what it talks about is mainly talks about the manufacturing process itself. So instead of using the age-old process which produces lot of toxic end products, we can go for latest technology or latest process. So it is called as an alternate, or you can call it an appropriate technology, so that this appropriate technology may not produce more toxic end products, so it will be more less of the toxic product. So then optimization. So optimization is another important topic. So whether we the raw material or in whether it is optimized or not, because most of the cases the raw material used will not go into the process, because some will not be consumed in the process. It will come out in the effluent. A good example is the textile industry, I can say. So the dyes, it may not be used up in the process, but it can sometimes come out also, depending upon the type of dyeing process or the bleaching process they use in the textile industry. So recycling and reuse, this is the concept what the pollution control also trying to inculcate into all industries. Recycle. So the industry has to recycle the water, wastewater, and use it there itself. So they can use a little amount of water to top up the requirement. This is what is being advocated. Where then we have end of pipe treatment. So rest some amount which cannot be reused, then it can go for either other type of treatment, or it can be disposed also. So for that also we have the landfills, etc. So some toxic products, sludge or the sediments can be taken to the landfill. That's a hazardous nature, if it is hazardous nature. This is the typical wastewater train, what we can say here, and the municipal wastewater. So we have the preliminary treatment, which is mainly to remove the suspended particles, heavier particles, etc. Primary treatment is given again. So it removes up to 30% of the BOD. Easily it can be removed. So the heavier particles, etc., that will contribute to that BODs that can be removed. Then you have the aerobic treatment, etc., which is what is called as a secondary treatment. So here the major BOD is getting removed, up to 85% also can be easily removed by the proper, if it is a properly functioning treatment plant. So this is then you can go for advanced treatment is also available, where we can remove the rest of the BOD that is available, along with some amount of nitrogen and phosphate, and then finally go for disinfection. So disinfection comes as the last because it contains the pathogens. We are talking about the pathogens, that is especially the bacterial pathogens. Only we are talking about mostly in industries. I think in future now we'll talk about the viral pathogens as well. The pollution will also give direction to look into the viral pathogen, because coronavirus is going to be part of the sewage. That is going to happen now in future. So now the solids mainly the sludge. It can be a primary sludge or the secondary sludge. So primary sludge mainly in a domestic wastewater treatment plant, it is being used for production of biogas. They use the biogas production. They have the digester there, and the digester produces the methane that is being used in the same industry as well. So there is a reduction in the consumption of the electricity. This is what is being practiced, or it is being advocated in most of the industries, in the treatment plants, sewage treatment plants. So primary treatment, as I told now, just it takes care of the heavier particles, etc. And the secondary treatment, now I told you that the organic carbon is converted into carbon dioxide, and then we have the biomass. That is what is. This is common for all types of treatment plants. So what are the different types of treatment plants? Generally, basically, we have the stabilization lagoons and stabilization ponds. This is what previously what we have been practicing. Still, if you have a large amount of land, the lagoon and stabilization ponds can also be there, can also be practiced. There is no harm, because it doesn't consume any electricity at all. Then you have the facultative, then aerated lagoons. So you have a variety here: facultative lagoons, aerated lagoon, and anaerobic lagoons, etc., or a mixed, etc., mixed also. Then we have the suspended growth. Suspended growth mainly talks about the activated sludge process. What is normally majority of the domestic wastewater treatment plant? Actually, they had activated sludge treatment plant. Then this now the new generation sequencing batch reactors have come. We have both aerobic as well as anaerobic. Then oxidation, wherever there can be a combination of different things also. It may not be the same. So depending upon the land requirement availability, it can be a same. It can be more than one treatment train in the same campus. Then you have the attached growth process like trickling filters, rotating biological contactors, then anaerobic digestion. So this anaerobic digestion normally can be practiced wherever we have high BOD wastewater. So if you have low BOD wastewater, it is not advisable to practice anaerobic digestion at all. So you don't get the byproduct methane as a additional revenue. So this is one important photograph which I have also done. This I have done this. It is called as a root zone treatment system, or it is also otherwise called as a constructed wetland system. So this is also another treatment unit for mainly the domestic wastewater. Even it can be practiced for industrial wastewater as well. So here we have the vertical flow system and the horizontal flow reed bed system or constructed wetland system. It is constructed. It is a natural treatment. Wetlands are there. So imitating a natural wetland. So we can construct a wetland system which we can practice or we can construct in any place where we want. So this is another work which I was also part in, not here, in Europe. So we can use the same system. It is otherwise called also as a phytoremediation. Here, this also can be used for heavy metal removal. So what happens here? Here the heavy metal can be precipitated at the bottom. Okay. So a pH plays a major role in this case. And there are also treatment plants where they practice the heavy metals to be absorbed by the plants. So the point there is how you dispose the plant with the heavy metals loaded in the plant. So that is, so some of the plants which are having fodder value cannot be practiced in that case. Okay. So that is, of course, it can be composted or it can be burnt or incinerated. So disinfection is another important thing. If we practice the variety of treatment plants, as I detailed you, disinfection is another important task. So you can use ultrafiltration, microfiltration you can use, and ultrafiltration can also be used if you want to remove the viruses as well. So ultrafiltration, but cost matters. How much it will cost? So everything you have to calculate the economic point of view. This is what I have been telling you. So there is another part of the wastewater is called as saline wastewater. So all the products made in the industry are not using the regular water or the regular process. Okay, some of the process they generate at the end of the process they generate what is called as a saline wastewater. This saline wastewater is not easily treatable. So biological treatment is not generally possible in case of the saline wastewater that is being produced in the industry. Industry only produces saline wastewater. It is not in the domestic wastewater unless you use the groundwater with high TDS. Then only it will come. Otherwise, no. Okay. So saline wastewater, we seawater we know. This is salt concentration, and some industries they use very high, more than 3.5% salinity will be there in the wastewater. So under such situations, it is not possible to treat the wastewater. So where you generate such type of wastewater, you can see in leather industry, like soak liquor is in there, that is component that has more amount of saline wastewater. Okay. Then textile industry. So textile industry also we have high TDS. We call it as a TDS, total dissolved solids. And then pharmaceutical industry, some products this will be generated, and petroleum industry also. So then we can see here the industries have the potential to use the water. There are different categories of industries depending upon their requirement of the water. So there are high water requirement industries like pulp, paper, cotton, textile industries. Then you have glass and steel manufacturing industries, etc. These they require very large amount of water. And medium category of industries requiring slightly less amount of volume of water is slaughterhouse. Then dairy industry. Of course, distillery is also placed here because it varies bleaching process. You may not require much. Okay, so then chemical industry, fertilizer industry, and some type of petroleum industry may not require more amount of water. Electroplating industries and meat processing industries. So this and less amount of water consumption generally pesticide industries we can say, and then the explosive industry, aluminum industries, paint industries, etc. So they may not require a large amount of water requirement, may not be there. So they produce less amount of wastewater as well. Okay. So recycle is one of the important thing that is being advocated, and so here water use, that is mainly to follow the, I already told this. And then the industry uses the water, either it can be surface water or groundwater, as the case may be. Then the treatment. So whatever the water that is being used in the process, that has to be treated by variety of treatment trains possible. So depending upon the appropriateness of the treatment system. Then sometimes they can have a biogas also. Additionally, they can produce biogas also. Then they have to treat it. In any way, they are supposed to do the treatment also. This is what is. So this why I thought this I should tell about this is because we are trying to locate the industries. As and when the industries ask for the license, it is being given, and it is located in variety of places wherever it is convenient for the particular person who wants to set up. But another concept is networking of the industry. So, for example, the particular wastewater that is produced by one industry may be required by the another industry. So, for example, I can say the high TDS in the wastewater produced by a pharmaceutical industry can be used by a alkali manufacturing industry straight away. So, there is no requirement for the industry to treat that and reuse in the same industry. So, this end product wastewater can be used by the another industry. They can produce, it will be a chloroalkali industry. So that will be fully, it will be matching. So like that, we have to see which industry can match the raw material and the product which they produce. So the solid material which they produce by another one industry can also be made use by another industry. Or now we are talking about the wealth from waste. So we can generate, take out the useful products or materials or elements from the waste water as well as sludge, and it can be recovered, like what they do in e-waste. So e-waste, they take out from the computer board, motherboard, etc. So you get variety of heavy metals, including noble metals, also there. So it is something like that. So you can it can give opportunity for employment as well, and also the coexistence of more than one industry. A group of industry can be housed in the same sector. So there will not be the problem of effluent generation or effluent being let out outside without treatment. Okay. This is what is an important. In many other countries it is also, but in some other states they have planned. But this requires very careful planning, and the product what they manufacture has to be very clear. Then only it is possible. Otherwise, it is not so easy. Okay, it's quite complicated, and it has to be done in a proper way. And wastewater can be put into variety of use depending upon the contamination it has. Urban use, so we can use it for irrigation, landscape, and toilet flushing also. So now toilet flushing, we can use the domestic wastewater. We can treat it by the methods I told you, and then we can have separate line from the treatment plant. Then we can use this only for flushing. So not for handling it, only for flushing. But here also we need to see how best the treatment that is being given. Then only it is possible. Okay. So there should be disinfection also a component there. Mainly the disinfection has to be there. Then only it can be flushed. So all these things have to be given. Then we have the agricultural use. So this can be, so agriculture along with the household nearby, etc., can be complementary to each other. So you can use the wastewater produced in the domestic sector, household, can be used for agricultural use. So that will reduce the burden of fresh water for agricultural sector, both from the surface water bodies as well as from the groundwater. Then environmental use. So you can have create artificial wetlands. So this wetland can be, so in tsunami, etc., we have been talking about this wetland, how it was useful. So this type of, we can create artificial wetlands which can take up large amount of nutrients also, like just like natural wetlands. We can create artificial wetlands nearby the pond, lakes, etc. Okay. So then industrial use. So industry also uses some of this wastewater. Like we also have some industries which they take the secondary treated wastewater from the Chennai Metro Water, and they use that do the tertiary treatment and then use. Like some industries, they practice that also. So only thing is they have to go for one more treatment so that it is becoming more cleaner and you can use. So I thought I will give one small few slides on the work what I have done also. So a lot of in the industries. This is about the distillery industry, where we have this spent wash. The spent wash generally has this characteristics. So here we see the BOD amount, how much is the BOD that is there available. So easily it will be around 30,000 to 40,000, etc. So that is the BOD. So we Pollution Control Board also has norms for each industry, and distillery industry they have a particular norm for discharge, what is called as a discharge standards, what is being advocated. So this is a thing. So our aim is to make use of this wastewater after treatment, because distillery industry what they do, because it will be very dark in color, they go for lagooning or they go for evaporators. They have multiple evaporators. The concentrated wastewater can be evaporated and then made into ash to satisfy the Pollution Control Board norms. So we can treat this industrial spent wash by sequencing batch reactor, what we call. So we have two different process, either ozonation and followed by aerobic SBR, or we go for anaerobic aerobic SBR followed by ozonation. So in both ways, so we have used some special microbial strains which can be practiced so that we can reach the quality what is being prescribed by the Pollution Control Board. So you can see here. So this is what Pollution Control Board talks about, only the BOD that is being discharged. So if you have 30 BOD, that means this is fine. So it is acceptable by the board. So this is what. So we easily we are able to achieve this particular thing, and that is what we have. Of course, we have done some patenting of our work also. So this is unit operations we follow, and bring it to 30 BOD milligram per liter BOD as prescribed by the Pollution Control Board. Okay. Now, so I just go into the another important emerging area is micropollutants. So we are talking about micropollutants. These pollutants have not been talked about so many years, because India is not the country, is not even now, India is not going to talk about micropollutants, and India is not going to look into the micropollutant aspect in drinking water. But in European countries and USA, Australia, etc., they are all more conscious about the micropollutant that is there in the drinking water. Of course, we are also talking about the microplastics, what is being mixed up in the drinking water. So how these micropollutants come into the drinking water? So whatever the pesticides what we use in the agricultural sector, if it is not treated properly, then it has to come somewhere. It contaminates the groundwater, or it contaminates the water body, surface water body, or soil, and so on. So that is how it is the runoff from those things, or through air spray, what they do in the air spray in the field, agricultural sector, for controlling the pests. So it can be carried through the air spray as well. variety of pesticides being sprayed also. And then some of them are endocrine disruptors. Okay, for example, pentachlorophenol and bisphenol, etc. These are all called as the endocrine disrupting compounds. And I also talked about the PFAS, and that is also endocrine disrupting phthalates. It's all endocrine disrupting compounds which can damage our system. Endocrines are disturbed, then each and every organ will be slowly, it will be destroyed. We never know. It is a cumulative toxicity. Nothing will happen to one person if it takes one day and immediately that person is not going to go to bed or to hospital. But it is a cumulative response. Okay. So just like the coronavirus, what we are talking about, it is not seen. It is not a seen enemy. It is a unseen enemy. Where we contract, how we contract, we ourselves do not know, because it is a microorganism of less than 200 micrometer across, or it is around 150 microns, micrometer across. That is the reason. So hormones, variety of hormones, etc. that is being discharged. It is coming in the wastewater, domestic wastewater as well. Pharmaceuticals. So we take so many medicines, variety of medicines like diclofenac. I think I have somewhere here. You can see the diclofenac, etc. Carbamazepine is also there. Then you have the estradiol and caffeine and so on. All these things are pharmaceutical ingredients. We use whether in the form of tablets or in the form of some type of ointments, etc. So then you wash it from the body surface, or it is whatever the tablet we take in, the entire thing will not be absorbed by the body. It cannot. So some percentage only will be absorbed. Balance will come out in the wastewater, in the fecal matter. So this will be there in the wastewater. So contamination of this domestic wastewater on this lines, drinking water lines. So it will end up, or the water bodies, surface water bodies, running water bodies, etc., which is being tapped for drinking water purpose, or even groundwater if it is contaminated by this type of micropollutants. So all these things will definitely bring in some amount of micropollutants. It is much more damaging, and it is so harmful to the body. In India, we are not concentrating, because first of all we have to give drinking water, proper drinking water for the people. That is, we are still talking about the coliforms only in 2020. So it will take some more years to include all these things. Of course, we don't have any standard for these micropollutants as well. So it is the job of the Pollution Control Board, CPCB, to include all these micropollutants, include the standards for these micropollutants, and bring into the BIS standards for drinking water as well. But you can, there are different possibilities. This micropollutant can be degraded also, ozonation, chlorination, adsorption, and then another aspect is called as the forward osmosis. Okay, this is another emerging concept that is coming up. Of course, we have to see which process is economical. So unless it is economical, it is not advisable. Okay. So chlorination we use, it will generate some chloroorganic compounds in the water. So that is also, it will become harmful. So that is also being thought about. So you can absorb these things on some matrix. That is also, but for large amount of water, is it possible to do it? That we have to see. So the economics plays a major role in all these things. I think I am almost coming to the end of my session. So I thought I would like to talk about little bit into the technologies what I have developed in Anna University. There are many things, many technologies that have been developed. I have listed a few here, so that it may be useful for some of the industries. Okay, or to start a new industry as well. So this is first one. What I listed here is the pyrethroid pesticides containing high TDS wastewater. So I told you the TDS, if it is high, biological treatment is not possible. So many of the industry, they go for only evaporators. That is the only possible thing. But we have already done the pharmaceutical industries. We have already implemented lab to field industrial scale to avoid the evaporators completely, but a total biological treatment which can treat up to 60,000 or 65,000 TDS. Pharmaceutical industry already we have commercialized, etc. And this I am talking about, it will be more than 10,000, even it can go up to 20 or 30,000 TDS. The biological treatment system is not available. Okay, but we have the technology with us, and it can be. I think we have some pesticide industries in Kadalur sector and in some other places wherever they produce this type of pyrethroid pesticides, mainly to take care of the pest in the agricultural field. So there are variety of pesticides being practiced. So this is pyrethroid is one variety. So so industry interested, they can easily contact us. And then biosensor. We are talking about the I talked about the phthalates. These are all the compounds which are called as endocrine disrupting compounds, which are generally the micropollutants. Or these phthalates are being released in the water bottles what we use, drinking water bottle, whether it is Bisleri or Aquafina or immaterial, or Pepsi or Miranda or whatever, Coke or whatever, immaterial. So if it is, I don't want to tell the time period when it is getting released, because it is a public talk. So it gets released after a certain time. So if it is kept for a longer duration, this type of pellets get released into the beverages as well as in water. I see if I go out of the city, you can always witness in many shops, this will be hung on the shop entrance. It will be like a garland, they hang it before the shop. It will be subjected to the vagaries of the environment, both during rain or shine, it will be there. Okay, so we have done it at different temperatures where it can be leached out more, or at what condition it will leach out. So our aim is sensor. We have developed a sensor to detect this phthalate if it is present in the particular beverage or water. Then biosensor for detection of PFOA. These are called as a fluorinated compounds, which is coming as a contaminant if you use some firefighting extinguisher or Teflon tapes. So you have this pizza boxes and so many other things where there is an inner coating is nothing but Teflon coating. So from there you can get this thing to the food material, and if in the water, in the liquid system, we can detect this. So this because these are all the enemy which we cannot see, just like corona virus. Only after it enters the body and it causes some type of disease, at that time we do not know whether the disease is caused by a biological pathogen or a chemical, or single chemical or multiple chemicals. So it is a vicious circle. So this we can detect this with PFOA, and there are two different compounds which are mostly used, or mostly it comes out in the water, wastewater also. And then soil remediation, we have developed a process to remediate the soil if it is biphenyl and chlorinated biphenyl contamination is there. So many places we use this biphenyls, chlorinated PCBs, etc. Even the transformers, they use PCBs. It is supposed to be changed. It is not still not modified. Many things not to be practiced are being practiced. So this type of contamination in the soil, etc. This can be because these can stay in the soil for long years. It will not go. So it will more recalcitrant, and it will be there preserved. It is not easily biodegradable, but we can. But we have the process for degrading and get rid of this completely. And fifth one, I said domestic wastewater or the grey water, wetland system. So we can this we can use wherever you have the land availability. Then we can. Grey water is another important thing. So this grey water is nothing but the toilet water is separate, balance is nothing but the grey water. So this in the black water, grey water component itself will become 70%. So, so if a person uses 20 liters of water, so out of that, we can say some 16 liters can be the grey water. So this grey water, which is not having the fecal matter, it's not supposed to have the fecal matter, but urine may be there. So this can be easily treated compared to the black water by even controlled wetland also. There are some other methods also, technologies also available. Of course, we have also technology for production of bioplastics, raw material from different types of waste materials. We have then disinfection of grey water or sewage. We can do even by nanotechnology as well. So you can use UV can be used, ozone can be used, or cheaper things, chlorine also can be used. Of course, it generates some chloramines and chlorinated organics, etc. But nanotechnology is the latest one, which can also take care of the disinfection of the bacteria as well as even virus also. So this. It is also possible. After the sewage treatment, then we can have one more unit with nano technology. So this can so that the sewage water it becomes pure. So it no longer you can call it as a sewage. It will become more or less more like a ordinary water, even by color itself. Also, okay, it will become the drinkable quality. Of course, if there is any micro pollutants, chemicals, etc., then we can remove it. That's also possible. There are methods available. Biogas production from this is another interesting thing for the used sanitary napkin that is being thrown in the garbage. It is called as household waste, and we still it is supposed to be a biomedical waste, but still. They have not categorized it, so it also has pathogens. So we can produce biogas from such type of waste also if we have a large amount of waste that is being generated in India and in so many other countries. Then methane, the global, we are talking about the global warming, how much temperature rise and solar, the Arctic ice melting, etc. All these things we are talking about. So sea level rise, etc. Methane is another important potent gas, greenhouse gas, much more than the carbon dioxide. So we can convert this methane that is being generated in the paddy fields. Cow generates so much amount of methane. Cow, or etc. Cattle, and then this can be converted, and we can mitigate the global warming potential of the country also. So this I thought I am coming to the end of my session, and so I thank you the organizers. I think I have taken almost more time, almost 1 hour. I think so, even more than 1 hour. And the organizers Biomall in collaboration with the Veritech Institute. Dr. Manoj, he only contacted me and asked me why can't I give a talk. So, of course, he was my PhD student. Now he is employed there. So he located me, and suddenly, since it is a lockdown period, then I thought I can give a talk also. I have other talks also with other people. So I thank him as well as his staff in that college, especially Dr. Viraj, who talked to me some 2 days ago, and today as well. So entire Biomall industry for this session. This is my contact for use for the people who are on the line. So I can take questions or clarifications if anything is required.